Good morning, happy Friday. So if you caught our last minute and a half, thanks hugely to Monica Benavides. Even though she couldn't join us today, she is helping us remotely with some technical challenges. So thank you, Monica. Big help.
Monica.
And we've got sound now, so hopefully we'll say something just as important. I can tell you all the most brilliant things already happened. Well, as you know, I'm Jeff Rogers.
Amber Dollison.
And we're here with Part of Our Design to talk to you about small biz. And this week we are talking about branding.
Branding.
Right?
It's
I know.
a big word.
It's a big word with the quotes around it even. And I think that it comes up a lot. Obviously it comes up a lot in our industry. I'm sure that you've heard about it in your industry. Oh, you need to be branded, or you have to have a logo, or you have to have a message. The thing is, I think out of context, you start to lose track of what really branding is for. The whole point of it.
What is branding? So what is branding?
So, branding is really about communicating a message. It's not about what colors you choose, or what pictures you choose, or what the tagline says on your business card or your title. It's not about any of that. It's about the person you represent, or the person your business represents.
Right.
It's about the message that you want to portray.
Right.
The mission, vision, values, all those things that are part of your business plan. Those are really, really important, but they're only the beginning of your story.
Right. Brand is how other people feel about you. Branding is how you tell that message, like how you make them feel those things. Whether that's good, or if you're not on target with your branding, then maybe that brand isn't communicated the way that you want it to, and so maybe there's negative connotations with that brand.
Well, that's absolutely true. You're sending a message
Right.
from your business or from yourself, whether you choose to or not.
Right.
No matter what you intended, there's always an impression that folks are getting, whether it's online or in person, or even just an elevator pitch in the conversation you have in the elevator about your company. Your brand really drives your business, or needs to.
Right.
Your brand is what you stand for and what you represent.
So let's talk about logos. How important do you feel like a logo is?
I think it's the second step. Your logo. Well, so when you're creating a brand, it starts with your market.
Right.
Right. When you're creating your branding package, your logo, your business card, whatever, it starts with, who the heck are you talking to? Are you talking to, women between 35 and 45?
I'm just checking Facebook comments.
Good. That's good. Hey, she's checking Facebook comments. That means you should be commenting on Facebook. So do that, and we'll respond either this week or next week. And we had some great conversations last week while I was out. Apparently that's the secret to success, is get Jeff out of the room. So make sure that you're feeding back, because this is your show. This is a show that we do for y'all. And that, I guess, really pinpoints what we're talking about, is that it has to start with the people that you're talking to, the people you're representing.
Mm-hmm.
For us, it's really about small business. Every company has their target. Every company has the person that they're really there to support, which is their customer, their client, their consumer. And so for us, it's really about small businesses. Another company that's similar to us might be about big business, or winning awards, or they're all great things. They're all really good things. And so the walk we walk is focused on helping small businesses like yours succeed. So that's where our brand has to begin. The same with yours. Who is the person you're communicating with?
Right.
Who's the person that you want to create that connection with, and the person that you want to build that support for? Because that's where your brand has to start. What do you look like to that person?
Right, absolutely.
And what is the message you send? I used to work with a fella. He said the most important thing to remember as a business leader or manager is that you're always on stage.
Correct.
Whether you're talking with your family about your business, whether you're talking with your clients about your business, or your vendors, whether you're just BSing with somebody on the street about it, you are always representing the thing that you do and the person that you are. So your personal brand is your statement, and that's where logos start, right? It starts with that. And then it starts with that person you're talking to, and it grows into that statement. What do you want to represent?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think logos are important, but I think that people get scared off by thinking this idea that they've got to choose the right one or they've got to choose the perfect one. And I don't think there's necessarily a right one or a perfect one. I think there's one that really speaks to you, and I think there's one that really speaks to your audience. But I don't think it's all about being right or being perfect. I think it's about having those first steps, that mission statement, the value statement, like knowing who you are and how you want to convey that, because once you have those things, everything else just kind of falls into place. It just does.
It really does, and it affects every decision you make with your clients. Right. It affects every decision you make with your print materials and design materials. When we make content, one of the first things that we do, and by content I mean when we're writing text or choosing pictures to represent a client's business, the first thing we do is we figure out your voice. Right. We figure out what is the message that you're sending, because that's where it all comes from. Is it fun? Is it young? Is it older and more established? Is it framing yourself as a professional or a best friend, or all of those things? That's where all of it filters from.
Well, I think we do a really good job of this, but I think the reason why we do is we like to listen. Like both of our personality types, we like to listen to somebody else tell their amazing story, and everybody's got an amazing story, and everybody's business is built out of a place of love or some amazing story. At least the ones that succeed, the ones that go places. It's not just I need to make money, so I'm going to make this business. Those aren't usually the ones that succeed. Really, it's the ones that are built out of love, and like when you tell that story. We can create some really cool things from those stories. Yeah, from the personal stories, from the story about your business, or the story about your life, or how you got there. Yeah. A very smart fellow once told me, "You'll never be successful at anything you don't love." You have to be passionate about it. What we do here is what I do all the time. Right. It's pretty much this and Scouts, and you have to be passionate about it, because for a long time you're not going to make any money at it, but forever you're going to be doing it all the time. And that passion inspires people. It communicates to people. And if you can tell that passionate story in a way that frames your business, it's really an important part of what a brand is. Yeah. I will say, so when it comes to communicating your brand through print materials or through content, there are some important things to consider. Okay. One is, does it look, well, first off, the most important is, did you steal it off the internet? Don't do that.
That's really, really expensive, I promise you. In the long run, it's going to cost you a lot of money in legal fees.
Well, and going back to the idea of brand, if you stole something off the internet, that's not full of integrity. That's not who you want to be. Do not steal your logo or your pictures or whatever
content,
it is.
Whatever it is, yeah.
Don't take it off the internet.
Or from somebody else, or don't use. You can, of course, we all grow our ideas from the industry. Everybody in the industry tells a similar story, no matter what industry you're in. But tell your story and tell it in your way. The second thing is walk the walk that you want to be. Your company is so much bigger than you from day one, or you're a freelancer, and those are both great things. If you have a company where you are the entire company, you're the face, you're the brand, that's great, that's fantastic, and frame it that way, put your face on everything. If your company is bigger than that, then make it look bigger than that. Just for the job you want to have, right? Wear the logo or the shirt or whatever it is that you want your company to be, because for the first year and a half it was really literally just me, but
you always said we.
I always said we because it was always something bigger than me. It was always me and my clients, or me and contractors that I worked with, or me and what I knew the company was going to become. And that level of professionalism adds a lot to your brand. It shows a lot about how much faith you have in your company, and it gives people the opportunity to have faith in your company with you. So get something that looks good. If you scratch it out on a napkin, Make sure that's intentional. Make sure it's make sure it's an artsy hipster napkin. And that can be your logo forever. I mean, it works. But it's the same with your website or your logo, or even really just the story you tell.
Mm-hmm.
And when you take that brand, when you take that message and the core beliefs of your company, the person that you are, and just like you said, you apply it to your content or your designs for your print materials or your logos, or you move it internally to the way you work with your employees,
mm-hmm.
the way you build your processes, the way you talk to your customers. When you take that brand and filter everything through it, then everything becomes part of your company, and your brand is clear, and your company is clear, and you start to build a company, build a client base,
mm-hmm.
and build a team that supports that faith. It supports that brand. And so I guess it's a little esoteric, right? It's a little, but it's not, oh, well, your brand is the 2 colors you want and the checklist of logo and stuff, or it's, the mission, vision, value statement. Those are all features of your brand.
Yeah.
Those are all part of the story that you tell. And that story is the core of a successful business to me.
Right.
It's, am I doing the right things? There's plenty of times we spend a bunch of money just to make sure we were doing the right thing for a client, because it was the right thing to do. Did we make more money on it? No, but you know what? It doesn't matter, because that's not what we're here for. And I've said forever, listen, give it all away. Put all your passion out there, and make sure you're making someone else's life better. Because if you're making someone else's life better, they become part of what your company does. They become part of who you are. And you believe in what you do enough that you not only gained expertise in it, you started an entire company based on it.
Yeah.
And if you can tell that story becomes your brand, and your brand becomes something that grows and can expand.
Yeah, I would agree. How do you guys feel about brand and branding? Are there any parts of it that you feel like you struggle with, or that you feel like are hard? I think sometimes, especially when you're coming into somebody else's brand, like I've done this before in other work environments where I'm coming into somebody else's brand, and I'll bring an idea to the table, and they'll be like, "Well, that's not really on brand." Okay. Well, that's fabulous. I'm glad that, but what does that mean? Like, what is our brands then? If I'm not on brand, like, how do I get there? And I think being able to spell those things out for other people, that join your team is really, really important. You can't keep your brand in your head. Like, you can't. That's why that mission, vision, value statement is so important.
Yeah.
Is because you have to be able to share it with the people that you're working with. Because if they don't know your brand, they will always be off brand, and that's not where you want to be.
So Guy Kawasaki, I highly recommend it. Everything that he writes is awesome, but he's a small business developer and consultant, and writes great books about it. But Guy Kawasaki said, again, I'm paraphrasing, you don't need a mission statement, you need a mantra, something you can say in 5 words or less that tells your story in a way that makes the little hairs, this is me paraphrasing, makes the little hairs on the back of your neck stand up. The phrase I say all the time, we help small businesses succeed. That's what we do. Mm-hmm. That's our passion, our goal, our drive. Your business has that, and that's your brand. That thing that when you say it, you believe it. And that's huge. And so you said something a minute ago, and I see you do this every day. You talked about identifying with someone else's brand.
Yeah.
And when we first sit down with a client, we really, from the first second we sit down with them to the end of the first hour and a half, we really sort of develop a brand.
Mm-hmm.
But you almost have this process, and I don't know if you've quantified it, but in the first month of working with a customer to represent them in social media or whatever, you really identify with their brand.
Yeah, I have to dive deep. I spend a lot of time on their website. It really helps, if we've either created that website or if they have like a really good website. I spend a lot of time trying to talk to that client. I spend time on the phone with them. I want to figure out the basics, like who they are, but I also need a brand reference for things like, well, what fonts do they almost always use? You know, like
Mm-hmm.
what fonts do they prefer to stay with? What colors? You know, like what portrays that? Like what kind of pictures does that brand identify with? And I think the first 2 months are a bit of a learning curve for me, trying to make sure that, you know, I'm portraying. So the first 2 months are a bit of an experiment, but once I figure out like who they are and what their voice is, then it's real easy to just dive back in. And I spend a lot of time on my content calendar, like for anybody that I represent. I spend a lot of time just filling out like what I think it is that they want to say, and then I spend a lot of time crossing things out because I figured out that isn't what they want to say, so I have to go back in and edit that stuff back out. So
and you're really in that time sort of exploring their personality. It's like making a new friend, except that friend is their company. Like
it's insane. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I enjoy it because it's a lot of work, and it's literally like stepping out of your own shoes and stepping in somebody else's. Like you have to spend time in that person's world or that company's world. You have to spend time figuring out who they are, and it can't just be like, okay, well, you know, this is a bank and I've represented banks before, so therefore I'm gonna, you know, do everything the same way.
Right.
It's not like that. Just because it's a bank and I've represented banks before, that message is still gonna be completely different based on that bank.
And one thing about that you can use, for example, that is sort of the same process. You know, we work almost exclusively with very small businesses, and you know, usually less than 10 employees, and those small businesses really sometimes don't always understand their message. They know it, they believe it, they're connected to it, but they haven't really defined it, and they haven't put it down on paper. And so that's one of the things that you're talking about that you do. You talk with them, and at the same time that you're developing their message, they're also coming to understand who it is that they are. And so definitely for your business, whether it's with us, definitely give us a call or come in and sit down. We're happy to help. Or whether it's, you know, with your spouse or with a good friend, sit down and tell your story, because just saying it out loud sometimes is important. Who is it I really am? And what is it that I'm good at? And over the life of your business, especially in the first 5 years, what you're really good at sort of goes a little this way and a little that way, and your expertise starts to really refine. And the way that you develop your brand is by telling your story. And by telling it to enough people that you start to understand what your story is. Because the 10th or 15th time you tell that story, you've removed the parts that don't really resonate. You've added the parts that you really wanted to be in there, and that becomes who you are. And that's the story your company tells, and that's the story your logo tells. So it looks like we have a comment.
Oh, let me pull that one up.
Right? So,
Yeah.
hey, and again, thank you guys so much for getting involved. We absolutely love what y'all do. We really do. That's one of the reasons that we started this business, and that's one of the reasons that we work with companies just like yours, because you guys are cool. Like really, honestly, you're an expert at what you do. You're good enough that people are willing to pay you for it. That's high praise. So don't be afraid to use that, and don't be afraid to get involved in the conversation, because we want to hear your expertise, whether it's starting a business, working with a business, or growing a business. Come be part of the conversation. So.
That's right. We had a comment from Monica Benavides saying not to be afraid of rebranding, and that's a really good thing to talk about. So let's talk about rebranding for just like 2 minutes.
Sure.
When should you rebrand, and how should you go about doing that?
Okay, so the most common time people think about rebranding, in my experience, is when something goes really, really bad. In my opinion, that's one of the actual worst times to rebrand.
Right.
Because it's very, very reactive. It's very like, okay, well, I'm just going to pretend to be someone else then. And at that point, that's the time when you most need to be on message. That's the time you most need to show everyone how amazing you are. So, not to start with a don't, but that's probably the last time you want to rebrand. You don't want to start rebranding with a mistake.
When should you rebrand?
Right. So, rebranding is, to me, when your logo, when your message is no longer telling your company story.
Yeah.
when you look at it and you think, wow, we're so much bigger than that. We did it with our business cards not 3 months ago.
Right. We completely changed them.
We completely changed our business cards because they weren't telling our story anymore. It was a different story now because the company had evolved, and because you coming on really grew us in a different direction, but also because we were something different than it was 3 years ago.
Well, and we just rebranded Small Business Friday. We just changed it. It has its own logo. It's going to be its own thing. So obviously part of ours still on it, but it's no longer the leaf. Like, now we have a cool business guy.
And it's because Small Biz Friday is its own thing now.
It's not just part of ours telling our story. It's small business owners telling their stories.
So definitely, not only don't be afraid to rebrand, but you should rebrand. At some point, you should show the growth of your company. You should show who you've become. Because everybody's done it. Target didn't always have the same logo. Amazon, I'm pretty sure, always had close to the same logo. But
they still redesign aspects of their brand
right.
all the time. And that's how you know a company is moving forward, is because they keep adjusting. And
that's exactly. And whether it's changing your logo or changing your message, who are we? Who are we really? And who have we become because of the growth of the business? So that's, in my opinion, when you rebrand is when your story is not being told by the things that you're telling people.
All right, we've got some events coming up that we have to plug before we leave.
Awesome events. Big, huge events. In fact, one big event. But go ahead.
That's called the big event. It's not our event. It's Small Business and Development Center, but that link is on our page, so you should definitely be going to that. And Monica and I talked about that last week, so if you missed that video, go ahead and check that out again. And after that is Social Media Boot Camp, the very next Wednesday, August 16th, and we will be at that as well. And so if you really need to kickstart your social media, really, it's a good refresher. Like, if you're doing anything in social media, and if you have a business, you should be doing something in social media. It's a good place to be. There's a lot of really excellent speakers, some fun panelists, so it'll be good.
Some fun panelists.
So
first off, we will both be at the big event at the booth, so come see us. If you want to talk to us personally, if you want to ask questions, we're going to be right there. And I'll probably do some one-on-ones with folks if you want your business to be featured. Hey, this is who I am. We'll probably do that a little bit at the booth. But also, if you want to be part of this conversation live and in person, we're right there ready to talk. Secondly, at the huge social media event, first off, the big event is a statewide event, so that's actually really, really big. Social Media Boot Camp is also a big event. There's going to be a lot of folks there, and I will be at the booth, but one of the awesome panelists is actually Amber.
Yay!
So
that'll be fun. But all the panelists are going to be really great.
Oh, it's a great group.
Really excited about the speakers, so you'll have to check that out. And then last, our next class is August 22nd, and that is all about building that content for your social media. So if every time I drop the words content calendar, you go, I don't know what that is, then you should come to my class, because I will teach you how to take those big, massive ideas of who am I, and what is my brand, and what do I want people to know, and what should I be, I know I need to post on Facebook, but what should I be posting on Facebook? We're going to dive into that. We're going to create an actual content calendar. We're going to look at what that means, how we do it, what we should be posting, how frequently we should be posting it, and that all varies based on your business, so it's all custom, and so we'll be diving into what that means, what you should be saying on social media. So if that idea of creating a content calendar scares you a little bit, come over on August 22nd and we'll break it down.
There's a couple things that really sort of define what we do in the office when you guys aren't looking. One is really that filter, that brand, that message, the belief system that we have as a company. But the other is we're really focus a lot on backing it up with processes, something that makes it applicable. Yes, this is a great thing. It's amazing. How do we make it work? Let's get in there with the nuts and bolts. And so that's really what this class is about, is taking that process. And Amber, a professional social media consultant, is going to take her process and put it in your hands.
Yeah.
So grab on with both hands. And so come see us at the big event. Come see us at Social Media Boot Camp. Come see this awesome presentation on content.
Class. It's August 22nd. It is $25, But I guarantee you that will be a very well spent $25 because you will come out with something that you can use.
So there you go. Two I think are free, and one's only $25, and you come out a winner. So
a big event is $20.
$20, and you get lunch.
I think you get lunch. You get a pretty awesome lunch.
If you don't
Monica,
get lunch,
comment. Do you get lunch? We get lunch,
Monica,
right?
You get lunch. So we may have just told like 600 people that you get lunch. So I don't know.
They do get lunch.
Clearly, we can't be trusted. So, all right. Well, thanks for being a great part of what we do, and thank you for letting us share our passion with your business. Come see us here next week or in between.
Next week we have a special guest. Bobby from Mathis Economic Development Center will be here. So I'm excited about that. She's going to be talking about all the really cool things happening in Mathis. So shout out to Bobby. And we'll see you here next week.
All right.
Friday, 10 a.m.
Next Friday, 10 a.m. We'll see you next week. And come check out Bobby because she's doing some good stuff out in Mathis.
Absolutely.
And go out there and love your business.
All right.